Hey everybody, Eric here. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you're going okay. Now, I wanted to tell you about a game that just recently came out, but I feel didn't make as much of a splash as it should have, because the following week, a more monolithic JRPG came out, which was Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Now, this is a game that originally was released only in Japan back in 1994, only sold 270,000 copies, and that game is Live Alive. Now, this is the first time that us as Westerners, aside from Japan or maybe ROM hacks or whatever, or translation hacks, that we've been able to play this game, and it is awesome. So I wanted to come up with 5 reasons why I think that you should play this game. So let's check it out. Reason number 1 why I think you should play Live Alive? It's simple. There's so much variety. Now, what do I mean by variety? There's 7 different characters that you play as in their own unique scenarios across time. Now, within these scenarios is one core battle mechanic, which is a really cool hybrid of like a tactics style and JRPG turn-based style battle system. I've actually never played anything like this, so if you like games like Fire Emblem or Final Fantasy Tic Tacs, tactics, I actually didn't even mean to say Tic Tacs. And of course, some other great games like Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI, I think you're going to be right at home with this really cool battle system. Now, aside from that, there are different ways that your characters that you're playing as interact and explore their own world. So for example, the Imperial China scenario is really just gung-ho on fighting enemies and training your martial arts students, trying to pass on your legacy. Whereas the present day scenario where you play as Masaru Takahara, who wants to become the strongest person in the world, he fights in a Street Fighter style scenario, learning the enemy's moves and then taking on the big bad boss at the end with all the moves that he's accumulated throughout his time fighting to become the strongest person in the world. It's actually really cool. My favorite scenario, however, is the distant future, where you play as this robot named Cube on a ship floating through space, and there are no fights whatsoever in this scenario, aside from the final fight of the scenario, which is your boss, of course, as to be expected. But it's more of like a psychological thriller than it is a standard JRPG story. So these 7 stories have their own quirks, and they're just different, and sometimes they're on the shorter side, sometimes they're on the longer side. I think the shortest one for me was probably the present day, which took about half an hour or 45 minutes, and the longest one I think was the prehistory, of course, where you play as the caveman trying to rescue the cave girl because he's fallen in love with her. So it's a really cool game. There's a lot of variety here, and I don't think you're going to be bored, because every night I was playing it, I was playing a different chapter, and there was always something to look forward to, and of course with the familiarity of that core battle mechanic. Reason number 2 why I think you should play this game: it's actually really easy. Now, once you master this core battle mechanic, it is really fun, and it also makes the enemies really, really easy, because it also displays the vulnerabilities of enemies based on what attacks you have, and of course the attacks that they are not so vulnerable to. So you can plot out your strategies relatively easily. And not only that, you can actually level up quite quickly. I think the max level that you can level your characters up to in their own scenarios is around level 10. If not, I think that's the max level that I got to anyway by the time that I finished those stories, aside from the distant future, which you don't really level up in anyway, unless you decide to play the Captain Square arcade game in the like the rest and relax area. So if you're looking for a game that's really straightforward and doesn't require a lot of brain power to get from point A, which is the start of the game, and point B, which is the end credits, I think Live Alive is actually going to be the perfect game for you to just put on and chill out, play. Reason number 3 why I think you should play Live Alive: it's actually really funny and really charming. Each character in their own unique scenario has their own quirks and charms, but I have to say, man, the funniest one to me was Pogo, the caveman in ancient prehistory. In this scenario, there's no dialogue, of course, because cavemen don't speak. It's really funny. They talk to each other with a series of grunts and groans. Not only that, some of the attacks that those characters have, the prehistory scenario, there's different attacks like yelling, loud yells, and a series of farts, and throwing fecal matter at the enemies, which like poisons an entire area. I have to say, I found myself actually laughing every time I would get into a battle, specifically in the prehistory thing. So not only is it a light and easy game, but it's also really funny. Reason number 4 why I think you should play Live Alive: Well, if you know anything about me, you know I love my video game music, especially JRPG music, and this game is absolutely no exception to the awesomeness that a JRPG can have when it's enhanced with a really special soundtrack. Now, this game was composed by Yoko Shimomura, who was part of Capcom in her early days, most notably with Street Fighter II, and then moved to Square with Live Alive, all the way through to Kingdom Hearts, and some other cool games in between, like Super Mario RPG, which is one of my new favorite games as well. So it's got a really great soundtrack, which is very fitting of each unique scenario that the game has to offer. Let's take, for example, the Wild West scenario where you play as the Sundown Kid. Of course, in a scenario that is full of looting and shooting and bandits and all that kind of stuff, you would expect a soundtrack to fit. And of course, it does, with a lot of great arrangements that sound just like a Wild West. My favorite set of songs, however, come from the near future scenario where you play as Akira, trying to essentially avenge his father's death when his town is overrun with a gang or bunch of scientists doing a mad experiment. We'll leave it at that. And the battle theme in this game is so good. It is insane how good it was. I was like, I cannot believe that I've never played this game sooner. And I really have never heard anybody talk about it. Purely because, of course, it didn't really sell well in Japan, and we couldn't read it. We couldn't play it until the remaster. And they absolutely did the soundtrack justice. It sounds so good. Go check it out. Reason number 5 why I think you should play Live Alive is it's just a really great reminder of how good JRPGs used to be, how good they can still be when done right. Look, I'm no game designer, but I've played a lot of great games over the years, specifically JRPGs, which is my favorite genre. I love games like Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy VI, Earthbound, all those great Super Nintendo era JRPGs. And I'm so happy that I can finally now add Live Alive to that list. What makes it so great? Well, I just think it's a really appealing package. Again, there's so much variety. The music is great, especially now with this HD 2D remake. It is stunning how good a game like this can be. It's fun, it's charming, it's witty, it's funny, it's cool, it's awesome. And there's never a dull moment in this game. And this is exactly how JRPGs should be. Not every JRPG is going to have these 7 stories encapsulated within a 27-hour or so time frame for the entirety of a game. But I just think it's really cool because it's just really charming. It's a game that doesn't take itself too seriously, but at the same time, it is a game that weighs heavy on the consequences of characters within their own scenarios. And of course, through that, there is a overarching lesson to be learned, which of course, as we know with JRPGs, there's always a life lesson or some sort of takeaway that we're supposed to have by the time the credits roll. And the cool thing about that is that there's 7 takeaways, or is there? I don't know. You have to play the game to find out. So there you have it, Live Alive. Honestly, go check it out. Like I said, this is a game that came out about a week before Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I opted for Xenoblade Chronicles 3 first. I completed that, and then I went back to Live Alive. And it's right up there with a contender for me for Game of the Year. And this isn't just me coming off of the game, having just seen the credits and feeling kind of high off of it. It's actually genuinely a really great story. It's a really great experience. And I just think it's a lot of fun. And if there's something that you missed your first playthrough, I'm sure you can have another playthrough and just play again and re-experience it again. I just think it's a really charming package, and I really highly recommend that you check this game out. And don't look at the back of the box because it kind of spoils the game. Anyway, we'll leave you with that. Thank you so much for watching today. Leave a comment down below. Let me know if you're going to grab this game. If you have already, what was your favorite scenario? I would love to hear your thoughts on this game. Otherwise, hey, we'll see you in the next video. Thanks again for watching.